Gravity and I can't say that. Sage, can you say something? I
I
can't
was
hear you.
I
Okay.
was just about to type that I was being quiet because we're recording.
Yes.
And so,
Oh, I'll edit the recording. I just
okay.
want to be sure because I'm just going to go ahead and unmute you and Idella now.
Okay.
Okay. Great. Idella, can you say something? I just want to make sure you're unmuted. Uh, Again. I'm muting. Uh-oh, hold up.
You're not unmuted, Idella.
Bottom.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Say it again. For some reason.
Mute.
There we go. There we go.
Yeah. So when you unmute me, I have to accept it on my end.
Okay. All right, great. Okay, because I was like, what? All right, we're good. Just got a couple of minutes. You all are both using the pronoun she?
Yes.
I do.
I am.
Okay, great. Let me make sure I'll introduce you.
Lighting back again.
Okay, we just have about 3 minutes.
Who is that?
Can you guys hear my neighbors?
No.
No. Let's see, we're just a little under 3 minutes, but the last one we did, someone, I don't know how this happened. I think it might have been with Kalama, someone started cooking.
Yeah.
And so you could hear the whole thing, like, and they were cooking down, you know, like flipping stuff and flipping stuff up. And I was like, oh my goodness, I'm trying to say in chat, like, yo, Kalama, we think someone's like, but it added to the talk. It was great.
I hear somebody moving around though, or something.
Yeah.
Did y'all hear the sort of bumping, thumping thing?
You hear that?
Oh,
Probably I bumped into the thing.
oh okay. It's like, where did that sound coming from?
I was listening to Lauren Hill a little while ago, so that's like stuck in my head now.
Mm-hmm.
Her song, "Gotta Find Peace of Mind." Whew.
Oh,
Yes.
that's a good one.
Probably should be my theme song right now.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
That Unplugged album is a good one. It's a good one.
Yeah.
It's funny, you often see folks talk about like there was no follow-up to Miseducation. I was like, there was a whole album unplugged. Like,
Right.
People
Right.
often say that, and I'm like,
I don't know. I don't think people think it was a real thing or something. But she's very therapeutic album to listen to.
mhm.
all right. Okay. All right, it's 6:30, so where we are. Usually takes a minute for people to join, sign on. So I'll start in 1 minute with the introduction. Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. Sponsored by Verizon's Communication, Conversations in Color is a free cultural series created by the Amistad Research Center that features artists, educators, and community activists and talks about their work and its impact on social change. Tonight, we are discussing Black women and polyamory as presented in the Sundance Film Festival's award winning film, My Belle, My Beauty, which is also South by Southwest Select's official selection and slated for a theatrical release this summer. The film takes a look at the complexities of polyamory. First time feature filmmaker Marion Hill takes us on a tipsy, moody dive into a multi partner relationship that holds all of the gravity and intimacy of sexual fluidity and triangulation, while maintaining a buoyant atmosphere of a hot summer adventure through the fields of southern France. At the center of the relationship is Bertie, an African American jazz singer from New Orleans who is defining life on her own terms within her complex relationship with lovers Fred and Lane. Idella Johnson, who plays Bertie, will discuss her character with artist change agent Sage Crump. Now, about our presenters. Sage Crump is an artist, cultural strategist, and facilitator who expands and deepens the work of cultural workers and arts organizations in social justice organizing. She also supports social justice organizations and understanding the role of how art and culture can play in movement building. She is a member of Complex Movements, a Detroit based artist collective whose interdisciplinary work supports local and translocal visionary organizing. Sage is principal and co founder with artist Muthi Reed of the Kinfolks Effect, or TKE. TKE is an incubation space for multimedia interdisciplinary artwork that examines the movements of Blackness through time and space. Thank you, Sage, for joining us tonight. Now, Idella Johnson was born and raised in New Orleans. She studied theater at Delgado Community College and later went on to receive a degree in music from Loyola University in New Orleans. She began her career as a professional actor, starring in plays and musicals in and around the city. For outstanding work, she won 3 Big Easy Awards, including 1 for Best Actress in a Musical and 2 for Best Supporting Actress. She made a screen debut in the 2011 movie The Mortician, which led to feature roles in TV and film. Her notable credits include Queen of the South, Grace and Family Christmas, an award-winning short, The Red Runs Down, which earned her a Women in Horror Film nomination for Best Performance. Soon after, Idella was selected for Ma Belle, My Beauty, which we will be discussing tonight. So I want to thank Idella for being here as well. Now, a bit of housekeeping. We will have a question and answer, so we ask you to put your questions in Q&A, and Sage will facilitate those questions for you. So thank you once again for joining us, and we can start.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for the introductions, Kara, and for welcoming us in. Conversations of Color is one of my favorite series here in New Orleans when we were able to gather in person. I'm so excited that it's continuing online and continuing to bring us conversations that are expanding how we think about the ways in which Blackness interacts with the world around us and all the different myriad of ways Blackness shows up in the world. So to be able to talk about polyamory and the way our, in our most intimate settings are impacted, designed, and are shared through both our bodies and in the world we live in is a really exciting opportunity. And I get to talk to Idella, so hey, it's a beautiful opportunity. So let's start with just thinking a little bit about what makes this an important conversation to have right now, right? Like I think one of the things that we're experiencing is an opportunity because of the dual pandemics, because of the way in which the world is cracking itself open, that there are ways that possibility is showing up, that we are coming to understand that some of the ways that our families, our most intimate spaces have been shaped by capitalism, by white supremacy, that those actually are the designs that aren't serving us right now, right? Like that. I was speaking earlier, I think Karen and I were talking about just families, even when it's a mother, father, 2 children in a home, when there's COVID in the house, like who gets to care for, how do people get cared for? And so I would love, Idella, for you to talk a little about like what makes this feel relevant for Ma Belle to be coming out in this moment? Like what are things, what makes this film feel like a really important offering and how we think about family and our interpersonal connections?
Great question. I think for me, I feel like this is a very important film in just a very different look at relationships and the non-traditional form of relationship, polyamory, and a story that's being told in a way where it's not taboo, where this is just what it is. So I think seeing more stories like that where it's not having to explain or please accept this, and that kind of thing. I think that's what I find important about this piece. Um, but other than that, I think with the way everything is going now in the world and in society, people are starting to be more open-minded and more flexible and more interested in different forms of relationships, how we connect with one another, and also things that you probably had to hide for so long. People are starting to feel more free and um, promoting things are stepping out of these traditional forms of who I am supposed to be in the society or who I'm supposed to be in a relationship, especially for Black women. I find that it's very important, especially for us, because we are held at such a high standard in our communities and in our families, and so anything that doesn't look traditional or doesn't um, fit the mold of what you've been taught growing up can be very taboo and can be very have a stigma, I think, attached to it. So I think stories like this are important, especially for seeing like a Black woman in that kind of role. It's very important.
Yeah, thank you for that. I love the reference to the film that it presents polyamory in a way that it just is, right? Like there's a phrase that people use the term unapologetic a lot nowadays. To some extent, I feel like a little over it, but I think this is it's really appropriate in reference to the way polyamory is shared in this film. Almost to the extent I feel like this conversation is giving away a little bit of a little spoiler alert, folks, because I know when I watched the film for the first time, I didn't expect it. Like I didn't know that was at the core of the film, like this relationship between Bertie, Lane, and Fred, and really Bertie is at the core of the film. And so I wonder, coming in as and particularly in the way you referenced how Black women are taught, and I'll say taught is probably the softest word I can use. Like these are the traditional roles in order to be accepted in society, like that we need to be living into, right? Like the chaste homemaker, like how much can we be like a 1950s sitcom in order to make ourselves acceptable to the world, right? In order to make ourselves presentable, or respectability politics aside. But this film actually digs into something else. And so I would imagine taking on the role of Bertie required a little bit of research, where the film doesn't define polyamory for us. I would imagine in your taking on the role, you had to figure some of that out for yourself. And where did that take you? And what did you learn about this word we're using right now, polyamory?
Yeah, I had only heard about it when I was approached about the film. And so after doing my research, I was like, oh, okay. So, okay, you have this relationship where everybody has have consented to having multiple partners or more people involved in a relationship, you know, and it working in a sense of like, okay, it's okay with everyone. We're okay with this. We've consented to this, and it's not like, okay, I'm cheating or whatever. No, we're all one big family in a sense. So that was the first look at it, and then I started like, just seeing more of like, okay, does this really work? How does this dynamic work? And when you throw in other things in the mix and that kind of thing. So I thought it was very interesting to put myself in that situation. And I always like to say, when I'm playing certain roles that, I find myself in my roles, and I try to really put Idella in this situation to be able to tell this story in the most authentic way. But I find that the one thing that my approach to it wasn't just, okay, well, I'm in this polyamorous relationship. My approach to it was more of me being an authentic person that anybody can relate to and be able to follow this journey and understand her walk in this journey. So it wasn't too much of a stretch, you know, even though I hadn't experienced a relationship like that myself, but it wasn't so much of a stretch. But in the film itself, it's almost that we approach the relationship post the relationships, because they were in a polyamorous relationship before you meet them in the film. So seeing that aspect of it, which was very interesting.
Thank you for that. I think that one of the things you're touching on for me is a reminder that polyamory is at its core what it says. It's like polyamory, multiple loves, right? Like, what does it mean to deeply love multiple people at the same time? And what does that require of us as humans, right? Like, there's a really beautiful, there's an Instagram page called the Sisters of Sexuality, and it's Black women exploring sexuality. And just out of nowhere today, they happen to have a quote around polyamory on their Facebook, on their Instagram. So I thought it'd be great to bring it in.
Yeah.
And it says, for me, polyamory is an exercise in reclaiming my wholeness and encouraging the folks that I love to do the same. It's learning to see myself and my lovers as whole beings. I love that because it takes polyamory out of like how many people are in the bed at the same time, right? It's like, how do we see each other and interact with the wholeness of who someone is, and how do we hold that in a loving light? I imagine that takes certain skills, right? Like, and so when you think about Bertie and the relationships with Lane and Fred, what kind of emotional skills, what kind of emotional skill set did that role require? Or do you think that person required, or even you to play that person? Because I love that you're saying, I'm not just playing a role, I am Idella in this role, right? Like, so.
And I think it's like everyone has something to offer, you know, and respecting what this person has to offer me in this relationship versus what this person have to offer me in this relationship. Because a lot of times I think in traditional relationships, it's you have like two people, and you're requiring a lot from that other person. There's only so much that other person can give you. And I think in this situation, it's more of like it creates an interesting balance, almost, you know, where in the film for Bertie, Fred has this thing where they connect on the artist level. And he's very loyal, very faithful, very nurturing, and a caregiver. And then you have Lane, and Lane just offers this other side of just this adventurous, like just passion, you know, that she couldn't necessarily get from the Fred who she ended up marrying. But I think Bertie being a central part of that, it was just a wonderful thing of just having, you know, best of both worlds. I'm trying, you know, I don't know. It's not for, and I, you know, it's not for everybody, but I think it was a beautiful dynamic for Bertie, you know, and I certainly enjoyed it, you know, having that kind of, you know, relationship. A lot of fun.
And for folks who haven't seen the film, let's make it clear. Sorry, I'm getting some notifications. I'm closing those. That Bertie is in a relationship with two people. One is Lane, who is a queer, non-binary, white presenting person from the United States. And Fred, who is a French born white male. And so Bertie, as a Black woman, is in a is polyamorous. And I wanna stop there for a second, because I want Bertie to be able to own her own polyamory. Like, that is who she is, regardless of whatever relationships she is involved in. But in this particular scenario in the film, Bertie is involved with Lane and Fred, who have both been her lovers.
Yeah. And in their situation, Bertie was the nucleus, like the central person of the relationship. They were in a relationship with her, but they weren't in a relationship with each other.
Mm-hmm.
You know? We were all in a polyamorous relationship, but I was the connector, the glue, I guess you would say. And I think there's a line in the film where the character Noah comes in, and she was like, I just can't see myself being with, having multiple partners or whatever. It's complicated. Mm-hmm. And Lane says, well, Bertie's good at it, Mm-hmm. And I think, and that's what kept it working. But then, I don't want to give too much away, but yeah. I think I don't know. I think, what was the question? I don't want to say the wrong thing here.
Well, let's follow up with that. What do you think makes Bertie good at it?
Bertie is a nurturer. She's a nurturer and she's a caregiver. And which is not very foreign for a Black woman. We know how to take care of a bunch of people at one time. I don't want to speak for all Black women, but the ones I've been raised by and been around, it's not a very foreign concept. Your heart is so big and you're able to love so many people. I think what makes her good at it is just that side of her, that very giving, nurturing, loving, accepting side of her, but also the type of personality to where I can give you this, what you need in this moment, but I can also reserve so much of myself in it as well, which makes the other person either feel like, oh, I'm not getting everything from her, but I'm getting what I need, which, I don't want to give too much away. I want to say something, but I feel like I'm going to be giving us a spoiler here. But I think just what makes her good at it is that she's able to have that kind of balance with people. Mm-hmm. She's able to zone in, okay, what you need, I can give that to you. But I think the problem comes in when the person wants, okay, that, and I want more. I don't want to share you, in a sense, and she doesn't have that. She doesn't have that where she feels like, oh, okay, I don't think you're sharing me. I think that I'm giving you what you need, I don't know. It's very interesting. I can't really speak for the other people, but what I see for Bertie is that she's, has that balance.
I love that, because one of the things it feels like you are centering in that is someone who understands themselves. Like that Bertie has made a decision for herself that what she can and cannot offer to whom when, and that there sounds like there's a negotiation happening.
Yeah, always. And that's something that I found in my research with polyamorous relationships. It's a constant negotiation, constant coming to the table, checking in kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
like what you need or that kind of thing. And I think for Bertie, it just came to a point in her life where, look, this is what I want, this is what I can offer you, and
mm-hmm.
take it or leave it, and I think there's repercussions to that too. once your emotions are really tied to it. So.
When I think a part of our conversation, we should just say, hey, folks, if you haven't seen the movie, there'll be some spoilers. No big deal. Go see it. It's going to be amazing. Don't worry.
Yeah, I think we're doing pretty good. We're not giving too much away, but we're giving you just like, you know, a little bit of it. You know, I would definitely like to touch on like, because we talked about, I think by Bertie being a Black woman and in this relationship with two people that's representing white. I think that's another thing too, you know, the strength, because there's got to be some kind of strength to be able to hold your own and be who you really are in that kind of environment. But it's also isolating as well. So it's complicated and complex.
In the film, Bertie is our only Black character who is in a relationship with two white people. I can't remember if I know one is French. I can't remember Lane's background.
He's French and Spanish mix.
He's French and Spanish mix. And is living in a small town in France, right? Like in the south of France. I don't know.
South of France, yeah.
South of France. And so there's something really interesting about getting needs met and how Bertie is attempting to navigate getting her needs met in a place where nobody looks like her. So how do people even understand what her needs are? Mm-hmm.
I think that's where the complication comes in. You know, you've been this person for others long, and now you're in a situation you're like, oh, my needs aren't quite getting met here. You know, I'm feeling isolated. I'm feeling very foreign and very, you know, and which brings on this depression almost. And she's grappling with that, but also grappling with the loss of her mother, which isn't mentioned a lot in the film, but you know, that's what she's dealing with. And everybody's still wanting what they want from her, you know. But one thing I do like about Bertie, when she wants to sit and settle and like, okay, hey, I need a moment, you know, she takes that. So, but yeah, it can be a very isolating, complex thing. But you know, she's an artist. She's very creative. So I'm happy that shows, because I find that people, creative people in situations like that, we can be very innovative in how we get what we want and what we need.
What are Bertie's tools? When you talk about how she's using art and creativity, what are her tools for getting what she needs in this environment in which she finds herself?
In this environment,
or what does she, I should say, in the environment, and also what does she wind up pulling up out of herself? Like, how does she care for herself in this?
A lot of self-care, a lot of alone time. But I know you know, she's, a lot of her needs are getting met in this relationship that she's in with Fred, because they have a dynamic that it's not really explained, but where there is like a mutual respect, a respect of like, okay, this is what you need, but I also know what you really need, because a lot of times we're in situations and we kind of want to just kind of like sit in our depression or whatever. But I think it all boils down to her artistry. That's the thing, that's the driving force in her life. You know, more so, you know, more than the love that she has with these people, I think, and that she's in a relationship, which it's more of like her music. That's the thing that drives, that's how she ended up in the south of France. you know, thankfully it was you know, Fred's, his hometown, his family home, and so that's where they're living. But it's the music, constant, has been a constant driving force in her life. But in terms of getting what she wants, getting what she needs, it's a hard one. It's a hard one because, you know, she's not home, she's not near family or anything like that, you know. So I think it's just a lot of alone time, a lot of self-care, and allowing others to be able to play their part in your life and accepting what they have to offer you. Yeah.
Accepting what they have to offer you. There's a I knew this elder once, this kahuna named Haile Makua, and he would say there are 3 things to a good life. Love all that you see, live what you feel, and know what you possess. And so I feel like that particular know what you possess felt really akin to what you just said about what Bertie knows about herself and what she can offer, and also what she can't.
And what she can. She knows that, yeah, definitely. What she has, she knows that. And I think that's what makes her so beautiful. Like, you know, this non-monogamous situation, you know, it works for her, you know. But in this situation, this is who I am. I can give you this much of me, but then I have my boundaries, I have my limitations, what I can't give you. And, you know, and in seeing that, you know, it looks very complicated and very complex, but I found that to be very refreshing, you know, based on what what things have been like in, you know, in the real world for me, you know, because I'm in the real world, I'm just give, you know, and then that's, you know, that's the artist in me too. But yeah, Bertie has this thing where, you know, I can give you this, but I can't give you that.
No, that's really, I love you were like in the real world, because there's a way in which the understanding of what we cannot give can feel like a limitation. And sometimes limitation can feel like like that's a problem, right? Like I have a limitation. Therefore I should be able to do more. And I think part of what, circling back to the beginning of this conversation and the way polyamory is presented in this film and the way it can live is that actually what you cannot give isn't your limitation. It's like part of the design parameters of whatever it is you and the people around you are going to be doing. So the belief that you can give all of yourself to anything, right? Like to like that is something that Bertie's not even trying to entertain, right? That's something that because then where's the negotiation, right? Like where's the navigation if
that just goes against the whole principle of it all. You know?
Yeah. Knowing what you can offer, what you can't. Like boundaries are beautiful, you know.
Beautiful. Boundaries are beautiful. Yay, boundaries.
Yay,
boundaries.
yeah.
You need to say that every day, like, you know. Healthy boundaries are beautiful.
Yeah. There's a Black somatic practitioner named Prentice Hemphill, and Prentice has like you'll see this quote floating around. It says, "Boundaries are a way I can love myself and you simultaneously."
Yeah,
those things. But I love the way you talk about that. That's actually not it's not often how we have been shaped, right, in our lives, particularly as Black women. our shape has often been, how much more can I give?
Yeah.
How much care can I offer? To the extent that it can be detrimental to ourselves. And so I wonder, when you think about this topic of like Black women and polyamory, and Bertie in particular, like what is Bertie sharing with us that feels like really evolutionary, right?
Yeah, I think it's okay. This is what I'm bringing to the table for you, right? And then, so what do you have that you can bring to the table too?
Mm.
So I think that's where the dynamic shifts in a relationship, where you have one person who wants to give, who wants to take care of everything, and if it's not working, okay, well, I'll do it. I'll take care of it. I'll take care of it. But then you have Bertie, where okay, I'll give you this, and then when I feel that it's enough, I'm going to pull back. I'm going to step back. And I mean, it's shown. It's shown in the film. It's not necessarily a spoken thing, but you see it.
Mm.
You see it. You see. Okay, I'm giving this, but then when it's time for me to take my time, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna allow you to get yourself together. Allow you to do what you need to do, whether that's you needing to leave, walk away, or whatever.
Mm.
Mm-hmm. So I thought that, and it's such a simple thing that I guess can go unnoticed. But for me, I'm like, that's huge.
Mm-hmm.
That's huge. Everybody plays their part. Everybody has a part to play.
Yeah.
That's how a relationship works.
Mm.
Any relationship. And yeah, you do have to come back to the table every so often. Okay, listen, this what I need. I'm not getting this or whatever. Okay, let's talk about it. Let's deal with it. And there are a couple of moments in that, couple of quiet moments in that, where you see the different people in a relationship. You see them talking about that. Well, that's what you want? And I think there's a line in there. I don't want to give too much away, but there's a line between where Fred says, you're different when Lane is around. Mm-hmm. And she asks him, is that something that you want from me for you? I'm paraphrasing right now, but you don't
have to remember all your lines right now, but
yeah, I don't remember. But yeah, and I think that's just beautiful. And I think that's something that a lot of us have to look at and really come to the table on when it comes to our relationships. We all have a part to play and to make this thing work. Mm-hmm. Can't be one-sided.
Well, and I love what you just said around like, and this is true of any relationship, right? Mm-hmm. Because part of what you said earlier about what the film does is it presents polyamory as just this thing that exists in the world, mm-hmm. right? Like, and we're here having a conversation about it, but not because it's some wild hair, right? Like that is off somewhere. Like this is not like demystifying polyamory, right? Like it's like, what is it? Is an organic, earth-based, body-based somatic practice of being in relationship. And it just so happens that this is considered unusual because we are been told that relationships, like the deep, intimate relationships, are only supposed to happen between two people. But I think that there's a way in which we often practice, are in a practice of polyamory that we just don't simply name, right? Like there was a beautiful conversation among some women. It was like, what if my friendships were the center of my life and not my marriage, right? Like, what if your relationships were like the center, like all these things held as much. I know when I think about the friends in my life, like I love them so much, it can move me to tears, right? Like it can really and we put that over here. And then there's your romantic relationship that then becomes, mm-hmm. in some ways in this culture becomes the most important. It can be told like, isn't that supposed to be the most important? And I think that this practice of loving deeply loving multiple people, understanding what they need, understanding what you need, you all being in a negotiation about that, you all checking in about that, is true of any relationship, right?
No, because you have these moments. I mean, I've done it before where I've gotten into relationships, and then my friends were put on a side, and then there was this lack of, oh, you don't talk to us anymore. I don't see you anymore, or that kind of thing, you know. But I think I find it very beautiful what you were just saying. Yeah, I think when you just hold that, there's a space for my marriage, and there's a space for my friends. And I will say, like, one of my best friends, we always say, oh, we're soulmates, because it's just like that's like I have one of my best friend, and just like my person for life,
Mm.
and there's always a respectable space that's designated for her, and it's never been something that was contradictory to my relationships, or never was something that I had to do a balancing act or whatever, you know. So I find that very beautiful what you're saying, because I guess that's the thing that will make a relationship, like a polyamorous relationship, work. Making sure that there's space there, you hold this space, and then there's coming to the table when they're talking, and and being there, so yeah, I think that's it's beautiful if when you look at it that way.
I think, and I offer it because I think that um, it gets us away from who's sleeping with whom, right?
Yeah,
Like that polyamory.
first thing people want to jump on.
Like there's a wide spectrum. We could do a whole like gender sexuality in 2021
Yeah,
conversation, but your sexuality and polyamory are not the same things.
yeah,
Right? So the idea that polyamory is connected to who you have sex with, when, how much, like the film offers us an opportunity to decouple that, and I think this conversation offers us an opportunity to decouple that. Right?
yeah.
Like,
I just have to give credit to Marion, like her writing style, and just like, I mean, I'm just blown away. Like it's you don't find a script very often. You don't see a movie very often where the director feels the need to just spoon feed you and also explain every single thing, and also uh be preachy, or make it okay, let's make this look a certain way, for the masses or whatever. And I that's just one thing I find just so beautiful about her script and her writing. Like, okay, so yeah, so I can just be, and then they just have to just join us in this journey and experience everything with us. um so yeah, I love that. And it's I guess I think that's the first thing people want to jump on. Okay, well, let's talk about the sex. Let's talk about yeah, it's wonderful. Sex
who's
is
with who,
wonderful.
where? Like, is all of y'all in the bed together? Is it?
Yeah, the sex is wonderful, it's beautiful, but then there's so much that you're leaving out. There's so much of the relationship that's way more than that you're leaving out. So
And so much that it feels like, going back to our conversation earlier about knowing yourself, knowing what you need, knowing what you have to offer, and knowing what your limitations are and your boundaries are, that are about the whole being. Back to the quote, like, what does it mean to love yourself and your partners as whole beings? Meaning there are things that they may not be able to offer you.
mm-hmm.
And what does that mean about how you get that need met?
And that's okay. But see, that's the thing, because we make that not okay. If somebody can't give you the 100% of it all. But no, that's why you have your girlfriend over here. She can give you that. You know what I'm saying? That's her job. you know. So I mean, and that's the thing, and I think that's we hope that's where we kind of mess up. I feel, I don't want to be the poster child of everything, and just, but I will say that I've seen, and I've done it in my own relationships, where you want to give somebody flack because you want them to give you something that they're just not capable of giving you. But then you see that, okay, I don't necessarily need this from this person, because I get this when I go and I spend some time with my girlfriend or whatever, and that kind of thing. So yeah, I think it's about balance.
Nice.
Love and balance goes hand in hand,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and when you look at it that way, and it's so funny because it's like the film, it kind of makes you think outside of the box of it all, and just like, okay, yeah. I hadn't even considered that, but yeah, that's definitely something to really look at.
Because not only do you have Bertie, Lane, and Fred, but Lane winds up picking up a lover throughout the time. Like they're different.
Which
Yeah, they're different iterations.
yeah.
And
you see where the water gets muddy.
Well, and I think that's where you get to thinking about what kind of emotional skills does something like this require of us? Like,
Yeah.
we've talked about like how much you know yourself, and it feels like there's also there are so many things that part of that knowing of self is who gets triggered by what, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we talked a little bit in the film, like you said, before the film starts, Lane, Freddie, and Bertie we're all in a relationship, and then Lane leaves the relationship, and then Freddie and Bertie get married.
Yeah.
As part of that, and that's on the heels of, and I maybe I am doing too much, but that's on the heels of Bertie's mother's death, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. On the heels of that, and then you have now it's on the heels of that, the death of her mother, and then trying to navigate this new terrain, with my artistry and singing, and then it's like, now all of a sudden, now I'm playing a role. Now I'm playing the wife of this musician, Fred and Bertie, and then it's like, oh, okay, this doesn't quite work for me. And so of course then this is how Lane gets back into the picture. Well, Lane comes back into the picture, and a lot has changed since then. So that's what I said, the water gets muddy because a lot can happen in a matter of a couple of years, and I think that's what we're taking on this, little fun adventure of it all, and then the person, it's like, okay, now, this is not how this is supposed to work at all. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Idella and I can talk all night. Clearly, I am a fan of the film and of your performance. It's amazing. But we also want to leave some time for questions. So feel free. There's a Q&A here in webinar, and if you type things in, I'll be sure to ask them and offer them up so that we can kind of engage, bring some folks who are on the call on in, because there's so many places we can go.
So many. And we're walking a tight line here because we're trying not to give too much. But
and I want to highlight the film is going to be available for theatrical release in the summertime. And can folks see it through South by Southwest right now? Is that?
It just ended. South by Southwest was this past week. And so now the next step is late summer. I think around August. I don't know the exact date, but I know late summer around then it's expected to be in a theatrical release. So we're gonna give it to the world to see now. So.
Wonderful. Well, I can't encourage enough. I don't know how many times I watched the trailer before I actually saw the film. So even if you go and just do that, you'll get a little bit of what it is that's happening. Let's see. We've got a question here. So this is from someone who says, we touched on how the film confronts standard notions or stereotypes of how African American women should be or act. How do we see the film as a guide or suggestion to confront those notions or stereotypes? So do we see, I'll give sort of see if I can paraphrase this. Do we see the film as a way to unpack or interact with stereotypes of African American women?
I want to just first start with the word a guide. I definitely would not want someone to look at it in a sense of like a guide, a tool guide of what this is what it should be, because I think anybody in that situation, it will be a unique experience for you. I think, but I do think that a takeaway would be that to simply, if this is something that you're interested in, no matter if you're Black woman or whoever, and particularly Black women, because we don't like, we need to start getting to a point where we're giving ourselves the okay, you know. But I would say the takeaway would be, I see this situation, and if this is something that, you know, either I'm doing behind closed doors or if it's something that I desire, it might be something that it's okay, because it's really not a taboo. It seems taboo because people aren't really talking about it and you don't really see it, but it doesn't mean that it's not happening. So I think the takeaway would be, okay, this is wonderful that now I'm getting to see this out in the open, you know, and I just want to own my own sexuality. I want to own my own, how I, non-monogamous, you know, relationships or whatever. So I think the takeaway would be just you walking away from from that and saying, okay, I'm inspired. And I think I want to live out my truth. So, but not necessarily a guide, but you know.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No, I appreciate that. I think that the inspired part feels really, really, I resonate with that very deeply, because as we've said, you know, polyamory can look like a million different things. It's just a negotiation amongst the people who are engaged in it. I think where I am thinking about this question around the stereotypes that can show up, because I think there's a way in which sometimes, because of the ways in which white supremacy, capitalism are structured to make assimilation a pathway to well-being, to like health, wealth, all that good stuff, that, you know, we try and out tradition, you know, traditionals, right? Like we actually, you know, the how much can we assimilate into white culture, like in what they say, what is told to us is like the best ways to be, the, you know, solo individual, the nuclear family, there's a way in which things that feel alternative often get read as like white shit, right? Like, oh, that's what they do. Like, we don't do that, but they do that, right? Like, so, right. But we know, and I mean, I think this is particularly having access to social media now, but also for generations, there have been alternative familial scenarios inside Black culture. And this is just an example of one of them. And so when I think about how it interacts with stereotypes, is there's an ability in the writing of the character Bertie to navigate the world on her own terms, and very clearly with a wide emotional landscape. Like, this is not like this Bertie is not a trope of anything, right? Because if she is, then she would be things like, you know, the fast Black woman, right? Oh, she got something like, you know, Black women, they can't keep, you know, all these things can come up. But the way she's portrayed in this film and the way she shows up, and your embodiment of her is so incredibly grounded. you're really clear when you watch the film that this is someone who understands her own agency. This is someone who takes time to be in conversation with the people around her, the people she loves, in deep communion. And this is someone who takes stock of herself. And is able to own it. And so I think in a certain way, those three things in particular, for me, help us expand.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that.
I love this. We have a question from Christian says, what are some ways that stating limitations can deepen intimacy and connection between two people?
Stating limitations can deepen connection
and intimacy and connections between two people.
Wow. First of all, I would, for me, I would think you always want to approach something from a, I guess, a loving standpoint and an understanding, and also not to be afraid of your own vulnerability, and as well as not to be afraid of being able to sit in a discomfort of a situation, you know. And I think so when you come to the table and you're talking with your significant others, you will find that you can be more validated in your approach if you're not afraid of your vulnerability and if you're not afraid of a bit of discomfort, you know. And so it's all about communication. It's all about communication and assertive communication, you know. Opposed to being passive or opposed to being, you know, passive aggressive or whatever, because you know you can't provide something. But asserting yourself and saying, okay, this is where I am, you know, this is what's going on with me, and this is what I have to offer you. This is what, you know, I can't, but let me know what can I do, or you know, that kind of, I think it's accepted. It can be create this intimacy and this connection in your relationship if you're able to come to the table like that. And it's going to feel very uncomfortable. It feels very uncomfortable, yeah. You know, because nobody wants to face their own vulnerability sometimes, but oh man, your vulnerability is what makes you so beautiful.
Yes, it does.
It really does, because you know you're a real person, you know, who don't have it all together. You know.
Yeah. And I think I will say for me that the intimacy and connection is, what does it mean to allow ourselves to be fully seen? And like, if you are sharing your limitations with someone, sharing your fears, your struggles, this is why this is hard for me. This is why I actually can't engage in this over here, or, you know, what this rubs up against around what I think about myself, or the things I've been through in my life. Like, sharing that with someone, sharing those quote unquote limitations, is sharing more of yourself, right? So it's this really interesting play on words where limitation sounds like withdrawal, but in this conversation, in this scenario, sharing your limitations actually puts more on the table for the relationship to be able to be seen more clearly, for us to be back to the quote from the Sisters of Sexuality, like, polyamory is about how do I see myself and the people I love as whole beings. And you can't be seen as a whole being if you're hiding parts of yourself that you feel aren't valuable, or that you feel aren't, like, and that's hard, right? Like, when we're talking about it, like, you know, it's important to do, and it's hard. It's
like, hard.
Yeah.
But the thing about the very things that you think you're hiding, we see anyway. Come out some kind of way. It may come out very ugly, you know, but it's there. You're living with every day, you know. And it's just a beautiful thing when you can just be who you are, you know.
We all, you know, there's the human need to be seen and known is deep.
It's very deep.
And that is not only the responsibility of the people who are outside of us looking at us, but also what do we allow to be seen or known about who we are in the world. Right? We have an equal responsibility.
This brings me to like how I used to be like how I used to be in my relationships. I remember one thing I used to always be like, you know, oh, you don't understand me. You don't. It was always a fight to get somebody to just understand me. You know, you know. So it's like, but the funny thing about that though, I didn't understand myself.
Bingo.
When I was begging for someone to understand me, I didn't even understand myself. So and then I took these years of just learning all these different things about me and understanding who I am. Then I was like, okay. So I was asking a lot, literally asking a lot, you know.
And there's a way in which we can think about polyamory as a pressure cooker for that learning.
Yeah.
As a way to learn about yourself very, very quickly, you know, because of the level of communication and negotiation of multiple people, right? If we think about our relationships as reflections, how many reflections of ourselves do we see?
I like that.
It looks like we've got one more question. Okay. Let me check the chat. Okay. Well, it looks like we are at a close for the day. Wow, this time just flew by.
Bye.
We knew it would. We knew it would. Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Thank you.
Idella, it was so great talking to you. Now we have to go and get some lawn chairs and sit 6 feet apart near the bayou and with a bottle of wine and keep this going. And we'll much thanks to the Amistad for bringing us together in these beautiful conversations in color, and Kara Aldridge for your brilliance and your deep connections and your deep willingness to build bridges that allow us to see Blackness in its multiplicity.
Yes.
Have a great night.
Good night.